Previously, in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, after defeating Aghast the Stitcher and claiming Gildzariak, the Bracers of Boldre, for Matashtai, the party hurried through the lidless eye portal in Mural's Gauntlet, heading toward the heart of the mountain. Urged on by fear that the Skull Takers were under attack from the Drow of House Avrendar. The nameless voice that had helped them through the portals before met them once again there, and she too showed concern. Enough so that in order for the party to pass through unmolested by the shadow in Undermountain, the being blossomed forth radiant light, calling the attention of the shadow onto herself. As the party swept forward through the arcane bloodstream, the scene transitioned to the northern barricade of the Lost Level, where Blarg, Salt, Thresher, and Churl stood a somewhat watchful guard on the pathway up to the Willowwood. Churl's ears perked, and he shouted a warning just in time for him and his fellows to seek cover behind the barricade as a hail of crossbow bolts shattered overhead. The barricade was under attack by the Drow, but the Skull Takers, with the help of the party, had prepared their defenses. Churl rushed to the lever that controlled a log trap, and though he took a crossbow bolt to the gut for his troubles, he did his duty and nearly flattened two of the encroaching Drow. Fortunately for the newest member of the Skull Takers, Salt was there to heal him, while Blarg and Thresher held the line against the Drow as formidable opponents. The northern barricade acquitted themselves admirably, but more Drow were coming, and as Salt reached out to Peppa, it became clear that they were being attacked elsewhere. Then, from the darkness, came a feline roar, and the sickly snap of bones and screaming. Moments later, Willow of the Wood, atop the displacer beast known as Krasan, arrived, the two of them covered in gore. Meanwhile, at the southeastern barricade, leading down to the land of the Stone Men, a similar scene unfolded. As Groin, Braralk, Snot, and Cotter lounged about, the newly practicing bard Snot alerted the group to the approach of strange footsteps just in time for them to avoid a hail of bolts. As the Drow rushed forward, the southern barricade was hard-pressed. Their scythe trap didn't work as planned, though Braralk was able to still trigger it by kicking a Drow into it. And while they fought ferociously, they didn't have the crushing might of Blarg, nor the stalwart defenses of Thresher. They did have heart. Groin rallied the barricade, fighting fiercely against the elite warrior that led the Drow, while all the while as Cotter and Snot supported from behind, and Braralk weathered blow after blow. The tide turned as the Drow leader was disarmed and began to retreat for reinforcements. In a fit of what can only be described as goblin madness, Groin had Braralk hurl him past the remaining Drow and after their leader. This might have been suicidal if the warrior had been able to retreat to their allies further down the tunnel, but it was at that point that screaming and the cracking of bones flooded up from the southeast as out of the darkness walked two tieflings accompanied by a demon and a charmed Drow. The Horned Sisters, recently freed from Dremorcor by the party, had arrived. The northern and southeastern barricades had held, but these were diversionary forces. In the nave of the heart of the mountain, relaxing and preparing for their own stints at guard duty, Pibble, Greer, Peppa, Oz, Big Beak, and Balrin were surprised as the doors to the heart of the mountain opened and out strode a contingent of Drow. Balrin recognized the lead warrior, and without hesitation, drew his sword, naming the individual Elinriu Beltaza, one of the 5 captains of the House Avrendar, an imminent threat to the Skull Takers' survival. As if to cement this truth, Elinriu uttered a simple phrase in common: kill them. The fierce battle began as a magical blue fist apparated in defense of Pibble, the steward of the heart of the mountain. It attacked a nearby elite warrior, but in the meantime, Elinryu pulled a crossbow and shot Pibble in the chest with a poison bolt, paralyzing the goblin co-chief. The rest of the gathered Skulltakers rushed to his aid, Oz and Big Beak charging into the combat on the flank, Peppa slowing the enemy Drow Mage, and Balrin, knowing himself to be outmatched, nonetheless hurtled forward to engage Elinryu and protect Pibble. Fortunately, Greer was able to shake Pibble free of his paralysis, and the steward immediately responded by throwing out a fist-sized ruby in an attempt to summon the Darkest Rain Shadow, a massive Zorn that had promised a mutually beneficial relationship with the Skulltakers. Pibble then moved to support Balrin, even as the poison dulled his senses, and Peppa blanketed the entrance to the heart in a stinking cloud. The battle continues to rage. Can the Skulltakers hold their own, or will they be overwhelmed? Will the Darkest Rain Shadow heed its summons? And how far behind is the party? Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.